Okay, Michael Jenkins here again, recording another video, just a short video for external students, this time about our second task, so our group task, which on the attendance day, which you I'll be sending out emails about that today as well, so the 23rd of March. You'll have to come in to do a group task. So with the external students, you'll have to. There are certain face-to-face requirements that have to be met for each of the subjects. So we pull those together on the one day. Your requirements for materials and methods is that you work as part of a group and carry out a group discussion. So I've set the framework for that, and that's the group task for the BAL, which stands for Bushfire Attack Level Materials Assessment. So that's due on the 27th of March, but it's the 23rd of March that you'll be coming in to do this. So that's the next one down here for our group task. For that, you want the project 1 brief, and you'll need to read the group task instructions. Also, you'll have this Bushfire Attack Level recommendations. So that's a summary sheet put together by a private certification company that brings together all of the aspects of Australian Standard 3959, the building bushfire prone areas, plus a couple other documents that affect how you build in bushfire prone areas. So that's a really good summary for you to work with. And then once that's all done, you do a scan of your notes and you'll upload them to here. But the main thing that I'll be assessing is your interaction within the group and then your presentation ideas. So what we'll have a look at first is our group task instructions. That opens up. So what you are required to do for this one is form into a group of at least 3, and so I'll do that, so the lecturer will assist in facilitating this process, to discuss the suitability of the proposed construction materials and methods for research project 1, given the correct bushfire attack level. So that's why you'll be needing that the information on that project, because you'll have a look at that specification for that building, the design and what materials are specified for it, and then you'll discuss the suitability of those proposed construction materials. You'll be provided with a bushfire attack level summary sheet as supplied by your private certifier, so that's what I showed there on the web page. You'll be required to discuss if and how the construction can meet the basic requirements for the bushfire attack level, and if there are any other reasonable precautions you can advise to your client. Finally, you are to verbally present your findings to the client, and each student in the group must take part in the discussion and the presentation. So typically you break the building down into several components. You look at the flooring, the walls, the roof, the deck, other ancillary structures, etc. So once you've done that and you looked at each of those components, I suggest discuss within your group who would like to discuss which aspect or present those publicly. So to get that background to understand whether materials are appropriate or not, we should go and have a look at our certifier's information, and also have a look at our project number 1 brief. I'll introduce that to you. So project 1 brief, which by the time you do this, you should be very familiar with this project 1 brief. So we won't go through that to too much detail. But you have that, you're given that medium bushfire attack level at 12.5. But the client is thinking about having a corrugated colour-bond roof, fibre cement weatherboard external wall cladding, and suspended timber floor to the main house, and small hardwood deck and veranda. So this is our project one, and these are the materials they're wishing to use. There's also a little bit of background information about the buildings, the roof pitch, floor ceiling height, etc. A bit of an idea about the soils. So, given that the site is bushfire attack level Bauer 12.5, do you think that these material choices are wise? Would you recommend other approaches? Do they need to consider specific construction details if they go ahead with these choices? So to do any of that, essentially what you need is a good understanding of Australian Standard 3959, which is the Australian Standard for building in bushfire prone areas. So that is an absolute must that you meet that for any property that's designated to be a bushfire prone area. You won't get through certification without it. But to assist in that process, and I strongly recommend that you do find Australian Standard 3959 on the SAI global site, for which you have a link from the library. So have a good look at that document. But you'll notice when you have a look at that document is fairly lengthy, and so it's nice that we've been given that summary. So I'll drop these two down and bring up the summary. So bushfire construction requirements. Within AS 3959, it breaks bushfire prone areas down into different risk categories. And on the video it's also in this playlist that has Daryl come in and have a chat about that, he covers each of those. So I won't go into those entirely, but what we'll have a quick look at. So what you'll be looking at is bushfire attack level 12.5, and you're given a rundown of what materials can and cannot be used and how they can be used in certain situations. So the way that the Australian Standard 3959 is written is it's typically, I call it a choose your own adventure type approach, where you can do one thing, or if you do another thing, then you have to do it in this way, or if you do another thing, then you have to do it in this way, and you incorporate these things. So you'll notice that this summary sheet is put together very much the same, but then extra bits have been added that aren't in AS 3959 to bring in some of the minister's specifications for various different other aspects of construction. So for our flooring system in Bauer 12.5, it can be concrete slab on ground or suspended concrete floor. So if we do those, it's simple. It's either it's a suspended or slab on ground, or if you do a framed floor, then it must be 600 millimeters above finished ground level or paving level, etc., with a wall that extends around the perimeter of the floor from the underside of the lowest framing member to be finished with the etc., or a non-combustible sheet material or vertical combustible sheet material and fibre reinforced, etc. So you get hopefully by this point you get what I mean about it's sort of very much choose your own adventure. You can choose to have a concrete slab, you can choose to have a framed floor, but if you do have a framed floor, then it comes with these certain requirements. Or a framed floor where any joist or bearing is less than 600 millimeters above the ground level, they can be non-combustible or protected, etc. So you have various different options to do. But then, so work your way through this and look at that in the context of our building, but also keep this document for assessing other constructions within bushfire prone areas. It doesn't just cover BAL 12.5, it covers all of your bushfire attack levels. So BAL 19, 29, 40 and flame zone. And you notice that the way it's written is that for BAL 19, for example, which is just that next step up above 12.5, many of these things are the same, except there'll be little things that are added as we go along, and then the major changes to construction happen when we get up into flame zone. So by the time we get to BAL 40, we've got less options and more constraints, so systems complying with AS 1530.8.1, so AS 1530 is combustibility of materials. So it gets tighter and less options and more constraints added. But then as soon as we get into flame zone, that's when things really ramp up and we have to have fire resistance levels, etc., to doors and windows. And so there's a real jump in the building cost once you're into flame zone. So have a really good look at that document, as well as having a good look at Australian Standard 3959 for building bushfire prone areas, and do all this in preparation for the group task on the 23rd of March. But also I encourage you to have a look at the other video of Daryl on attendance day from last semester, where he goes through or a bit of a summary on different bushfire attack levels, but on the dedicated water supply requirements for buildings. Enjoy, and as per usual, if you have any queries, please let me know. Thank you.